Hi guys, Fortunes from Football here. Match reaction Roma versus Fiorentina, first game of the season. We're going to dive straight into it. Just before we do, if you like it, hit like, hit subscribe, let's get cracking. Okay, starting lineup before we actually get into the match itself. No major surprises. Biggest news, Tammy Abraham coming in up top for his debut. And obviously debuts for Patricio and Matthias Viñar as well. But to run through the side, Rui Patricio in goal, back four of Karsdorp, Mancini, Ibanez and Vina, double pivot of Cristante and Vertu, and then you got the front three behind Tammy Abraham of Zaniolo, Pellegrini and Mkhitaryan. So decent lineup and a strong bench. I guess one surprise name I was expecting was potentially Shoromadov for start instead of Mkhitaryan, but we'll come to that. Let's move on. Right, first half takeaways. So, start of the game, Fiorentina actually started pretty well. They were wanting possession, happy to move the ball around. Neat and tidy, weren't really threatening. Roma quite comfortable. Mourinho wouldn't have been too bothered standing on the sidelines watching that. Roma, by contrast, didn't have any interest in the sideways and backwards passing. And they certainly, kind of the Mourinho template of really looking to get forwards every time they had the ball, real purpose in their passing, trying to get through the lines quickly, trying to get Fiorentina defence stretched. And that kind of led to the first major moment in the game on minute 17. Abraham, who had looked lively early on, spanning behind the defence. Fiorentina playing a high line. Bart Drakowski in goal comes charging out like a lunatic. No need to be there. But anyway, Abraham beat him to the ball, knocked it past him, and Drakowski cleaned him out. Ref opted for the red card. Fiorentina might argue that Abraham was heading away from goal, but madness for the keeper to be there. And I say they could argue it, but you could argue it both ways, and ultimately probably the right decision. And certainly once he'd committed, if Abraham had not been caught, he probably would have gone on to score. Probably. But anyway, wasn't long for the opening goal to come after that. 9 minutes, and Tammy Abraham was involved again. So, New Boy picked the ball up, edge of the box, calm, composed, trying to work an angle for a shot. Opening never came, but instead he had the composure to pick out Mkhitaryan, who had timed his run to perfection, had one touch before coolly slotting away past the sub-keeper. And that was 1-0. From there on out, Fiorentina had a couple of attacks, as it had been early on, reasonably well managed by Roma. Patricio very steady behind Mancini and Ibanez, who again looked largely comfortable. And then the only other thing to mention is Zaniolo, who had looked decent in the first half, had tested to keep from distance at 1-0, booked towards the end of the half. I think it was minute 44. Cynical foul of Fiorentina broke. He's got that in his game. Goes with the territory. But yeah, picked up a yellow card just at the end of the half. So the second half, and this is why that Zaniolo yellow became noteworthy in the first, was the first real action in the second half, was his second caution, red card. Both sides down 10 men at this point, and obviously, kind of levels things up. Fiorentina had remained forward thinking. They'd still looked to keep possession, still had intent to attack. Fair play to them. But actually, the next couple of chances went to Roma, and in particular Mkhitaryan. So first up, Abraham and Pellegrini combined, teeing up Mkhitaryan. You could say it was a powder puff finish, possibly stretching a little bit, but it was far too easy for the keeper. Was never going in. And then the worst one, although he was saved by the offside flag, Pellegrini once again involved. Brilliant crossfield ball to open it up. Mkhitaryan in behind, and his touch was utterly woeful, and it rolled away from him straight into the arms of the keeper. And like I say, offside flag saved him the embarrassment, but really he should have been tucking it away for 2-0. And on the hour mark, Fiorentina levelled. They'd grown into the game. Probably would argue they deserved to be level without really cutting Roma open, though, to be fair. But it's a bit of a couple of minutes to forget for Cristante in the middle of the park. So, firstly, tried to play out wide in the middle of the park, straight onto a Fiorentina head. That led to an attack down Roma's left-hand side. Low cross, decent cross. Patricio half dealt with it. And then Cristante seemed to make up for it. Crucial interception. Goal was waiting for the net to ripple, but Cristante got there, towed it away for a corner. And from the corner, Fiorentina equalised. Wasn't put straight in a mixer. Ball eventually came in from deep. Milenkovic was left unmarked in the box at the back post. Touched to bring it down. Steadied himself and finished. Left Patricio with no chance. And the reason we talked about a mad couple of minutes for Cristante is, if you're pointing fingers, he's probably switched off a little bit to give him that Milenkovic the time to bring it down and finish. That said, one of the things under Mourinho at Tottenham, they couldn't really handle adversity when games started to get away from them. They really lost the plot a bit. You couldn't say it about Roma. They responded really well. Pellegrini again, throw in deep from Karsdorp, down Fiorentina's right-hand side. Pellegrini touch of class over the defender's head and put in a great cross. And Abraham arrived probably 8 yards out, header against the bar. And you're starting to think, maybe it's not Roma's day when it comes to that. But a couple of minutes later, 2-1. Mkhitaryan, who'd obviously missed those earlier chances, done really well to win possession in midfield. Fed Abraham, who, like Mkhitaryan had done for his goal, timed his run really well. And he put in a low cross, possibly intended for Mkhitaryan, who had continued his run. Actually ended up going past all of them, defenders and Mkhitaryan, and Jordan Vertu popped up at the back stick just to roll it in. That was 2-1, obviously. Another VAR check, as was the case with Roma's first. But then on 80, the game was wrapped up. And it was Jordan Vertu again, who obviously played for Fiorentina before, but on the double. And this time it was classic Mourinho counter-attack from their own box. Fiorentina calling for a penalty, which it never was. Mancini won the ball fair and square, played out. Pellegrini carried the ball forwards. And Shoromadov, now on for his home debut, took over on the touchline, drove inside really powerfully, really good balance, palmed off a defender, cut into the centre of the field, and then just slipped a ball through to Vertu, who would run beyond him from deep, and a really composed finish for 3-1, and Fiorentina were never coming back. So that's the game action covered. Just a couple of highlights to pick out now. So I guess let's start with the new boys. So Rui Patricio in goal. Really solid debut. Nothing he could do about the goal. Decent with his feet. Done everything he had to do. Handling was good. Just a calming influence on the people in front of him. And already his relationship with the two centre-halves, Ibanez and Mancini, you both had decent games. Ibanez probably the better of the two. If we were choosing between those two, relationship seems to be there already. Matthias Vigna on the left-hand side is steady, looks to get forward a lot. And then, obviously, up the top end of the pitch, Tammy Abraham, really good movement, hard running, and just showed a couple of moments of class and composure to tee up the two goals, get his assists. He'd have been disappointed not to score with his header that hit the bar, but all in all, 2 assists on his debut, subbed off for a standing ovation when he was replaced by the other man, Shomurodov. He also grabbed an assist. Good day all round for the new boys. Other standout performances, obviously Jordan Vertu got a brace. Both good goals running from deep, arriving in the box. Very different finishes, but the runs there, and if he continues to play like that, he will score a lot of goals. Man of the match for me, Pellegrini. Absolutely different class. Carrying the ball, using it well, tackling, pick up a booking in, and I mean particularly how well he played. When you bear in mind he picked up a booking really early on, kind of 12 or 14 minutes, I think. Just fantastic game from him. Only downside for Roma, obviously Zaniolo being sent off. Can't have any arguments with it, to be honest. But thankfully fixture list is kind, and Roma should be able to cope without him next week. And then just generally on Mourinho, and in terms of the style of play, in possession, passing through the lines, quick, direct, really had a purpose with the way they played. Defensively, solid, good shape, worked hard, and it looks like a easy first game of the season, but real togetherness as well. But good day at the office, and he'll be buzzing. And that's your lot for today, guys. We've been Fortunes from Football. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed it, hit like, hit subscribe, and we'll be back soon. Thanks very much.